All right. Good morning, guys. I see the attendees have sort of staggered down now. If there are a few people who joined late, we will be sharing a recording on our YouTube channel in any case, but I don't think there'll be too much to miss. Thank you very much for joining, guys. As you already might know, I will mention for those of you who don't, my name is Andrew Tyler. I'm Sales and Business Development Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa at GoodWe. And on the call, I also have my colleague, David Havenga, who's our technical manager for Sub-Saharan Africa, who will be presenting this training today. This is the last of the 3 webinars in this August sort of series of our GoodWe Pro Training Africa platform. So thanks very much for those of you who have joined the other 2 or have now joined all 3. We will be, as mentioned previously, sharing the YouTube links for these presentations so that you can go back and watch them, as well as the actual PDF slides that were presented. So please just hang on. It'll probably take another day or 2. Potentially by the end of this week, we will have the links and the presentations emailed to you. Thanks very much again for joining. This specific presentation will be focusing on the GoodWe SEMS Portal, specifically on tips and tricks. The SEMS Portal was developed, by our R&D team, and it's a platform that's offered on all of our products. So definitely a lot of, things that guys don't realize when looking at the portal. I've had a few calls, and I'm sure our service center and David have had a few calls where the guys were unsure on where to find information on things like overloads, or whether the battery BMS was communicating, firmware versions, etc. So the idea with this training was to give you guys the platform to see where to look for different things and find issues, etc. on your plant by just reviewing data on the portal. But yeah, thanks very much. Look forward to welcoming you guys, and I'll hand over to David now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. So this is going to be mostly a live demo, so there's not really any slides for us to look at. So what we're going to be going through is like the overview of SEMS. So I think we're going to try and cover as much about SEMS as we can, all the different views and things that we can see, the main dashboard, creating plants, reports, alarms, and finding all the detailed information on our devices. So for this, we have the main overview of SEMS. So for all of you who have installer accounts, all of your plants will appear here. You'll get all the statistics of your plants on top. The new plants you've registered in the month, the generation and income, and total generation and income, as well as you'll see the 4 statuses. So fault, offline, waiting, and working. So as we can see here, this is our HK plant, so our Hong Kong server. This is the server which all South Africa is on. There's also a lot of other countries in Asia and all those as well. So you'll see there's a large number of offline plants. That is due to a lot of grid ties in the regions as well. And those grid ties are off because it's nighttime. So at any given time, there's a large amount of plants offline because it's a lot of grid ties as well. So at different times of the day, we'll find different numbers. I know normally in the afternoon, about 10, 11 o'clock, this number will triple of online plants. So that's all to do with the devices that are off at the moment. As you'll see, we've got lots of plants in waiting and in fault as well. Fault, I'll show you the fault page. That's primary devices that don't have utility working at the moment. I mean, a lot of plants in Africa, so a lot of utility failures. And then waiting is also similar to utility failure, where the plants are inactive, maybe the batteries are flat and there is no utility, so the devices are online, they are reporting, but they're not producing any energy. As you can see here in the main overview, so we've got the plants, it's always by name, so it's always alphabetical. You'll see we start with numbers and symbols, and then it works its way down, and this is all fully alphabetical. We can also filter by capacity. So once you've got a lot of plants installed, you can also just click capacity. That's the lowest capacity where customers have not entered capacity. Or we can filter by highest capacity. Then you can see from the highest capacity. Yeah, some of this, sometimes customers also have a 25 kilowatt and they put 25,000. Yeah, this is also, so, but yeah, you can see the power generated for today, the equivalent hours, so based on the generation versus the hours registered, the energy today, the energy this month, and the total energy the plant has generated. There's also classification here, which you can filter by. So you see the classification is battery storage, residential, commercial rooftop, and ground mounted. So South Africa, we have primary, the battery storage. So we also have a filtering system here where we can go through and filter specifically by country. This filter only really works well if everyone selects the country correctly. There's a lot of plants that are missing if we select South Africa. So I'll leave it at that. Then we have, so you can also search by plants. So yeah, you could use the plant name, email, anything like that. You can type in the first few digits even. You'll see it will, after 3 digits, it will start to look. And it will automatically bring up the closest search results without us hitting search. If we can't find it yet, because it's only giving us the first 4 results, we'll have to hit search, which it will then search through everything and give us all the different plants that we can find. And now we will move on to the main dashboard. So the main dashboard here, it does recommend viewing this in full screen to give a better overview. I don't think it's necessary always to use it in full screen, but it's nice. So if your customers, if you have a lot of installations, you can have a TV in the lobby of your company, and you can have this display up. As you'll see, it displays all the different plants in all the different locations. So see Johannesburg, Pretoria, Durban, all these places. We can scroll out even further to view different countries. As you'll see, there's a lot of plants in the middle of the ocean. So based on customer selection, it's not necessarily islands all over with inverters on them. So as you see, as we scroll in, it does divide it up. So you can have it if you specifically in Johannesburg or anywhere like that, or specifically Cape Town. You can have it zoomed in quite further. Then customers can see where all your installations are. And it is a lot. You can scroll in all the way down. So as you see on the side of my screen, it's not displaying everything quite nicely. I think it's, we zoomed in a bit. So the full screen will fix this legend where some of the devices are not displaying correctly. So I'll go through in the SEMS Portal. So all this information that you see on the side of the main dashboard, so this main dashboard, you can edit to show exactly what it displays. So you do have a certain amount of selections on your plant that you can select. I'll just have to pull up a different example of this, where we can see exactly what's going on. For this, I'll just have to log into a different account for us. But yes, you can adjust all these different parameters that you can see. I do see that we have a few questions popping in. I think we'll go through all the questions as soon as we're done, as per all our other webinars. But please do, as you think of a question, please throw them all in that Q&A box for us, and then I'll answer all the questions afterwards. So just 1 second, just want to pull up a different account. So over here we have our settings. So this is the settings section for installer accounts. You'll see there are a few different preferences. I'll go through these shortly, but for now we are focusing on the main dashboard. So in the main dashboard, as you'll see here, you can change the default map. So you need to drag and move your default. So this is just the display location it shows as soon as you open your main dashboard. So yeah, you can move it and have a default showing South Africa. You can also have it in a square grid lists, also make sure it's only generating plants or all plants, the carousel frequency. So it's the frequency of data that's displayed. So if you make that longer, then the page will probably load quicker. So you can just change that. So if you have a carousel showing different information, rotating, so it all depends on the settings you set. So yeah, you'll see is the main dashboard customization. So you'll see there's a drop down list from different points that you can show. So some people might want equivalent hour ranking to see which plant is performing the best. If you want your customers to compete with one another and install more PV, you can do that. Yeah, there is quite a bit of customization you can do here for all the different information you can show on the side. So you'll see capacity and proportion. This is just all the different information that you can display on this for your customers. So you can customize this to what you think is the most relevant information to display to your customers. And then you can just hit save changes. Then we'll move over to creating plants. So first, before we create plants, we can come to our settings. Yes, just another setting. So this is default ratios for the CO2 values and stuff you see on your main dashboard, as well as the opening page of SEMS Portal. This are all default values that are entered. Yeah, you'll see the default profit ratio. So this applies to all your plants when creating plants. So this is a default value. You see here, we've selected ZAR in kilowatt hour. When you have a new plant created or a new account created, this might be USD or something like that. So you can just simply come here, click and make it ZAR by default. If you have a default profit ratio which you'd like to use, so that's the, as you can see, this is still the USD one. I've not changed that, but yeah, you can quite easily change this 122 or 222 based on the areas where you mostly install. If there is a fixed value for energy in that area, you can simply put it in here. We know a lot of customers do ask us for different ratios, unfortunately, because we have different tariff systems in South Africa based on sometimes time, sometimes you'll have tariff based on kilowatt usage in the month. Unfortunately, we don't have the system to counteract that. So it's normally just best then to use an average of the values for that kilowatt hour ratio. You also have here the option of the logo. So this is for the main dashboard as well as the main system logo. You can put your company logo in there. So when that's up on the main dashboard, your company logo is there and everyone can see it. And same with the system logo. So when you open SEMS Portal, your logo will be there on that portal. So when you're showing customers the portal and showing what they can see, they'll see your logo on the portal as well. Then we come through to the creating of the plant. So as you see, we come to management, we go through to plants, and then we've got the blue top button, which is create. As you'll see here, this I haven't changed the default value. So yeah, we have some other default values. So yeah, we'll have to change this to ZAR, which is right at the bottom. You'll see this automatically creates a default plant name based on your installer code and then a random identifier for the plant. It's always recommended to make this name as identifying as possible. So if you leave all your plants this way, when a customer phones you and he's like, please have a look at my plant, you're not, after you've done a few installations, you're not going to remember which plant is which customer. So it's best just to give it a good identifying name so that if Paul calls you, you know it's Paul and you can go and have a look at his plant. So for now, as you'll see, with an installer's account, there is no owner and no visitor. We can leave that blank for now. So initially, we'll leave that blank. So while you're installing, or even before you install the device, sometimes it's recommended to create the plant beforehand and already add the devices to the plant, just so especially on the domestic situation, but for commercial sites, you do that a bit differently. So in the domestic situation, sometimes when you hang the inverter on the wall and you're going to come back tomorrow to commission, the end user is too curious and registers his inverter himself. So that does sometimes happen. So that's why it might be a good idea to already add the device to the plant so that the end user can't do that prior to your commissioning. Once you're done and commissioned, you can simply come here, add owner, but we'll get to that now. Here we have the capacity. So how much kilowatts of PV have we put on the roof? That's not the inverter capacity, that's the kilowatt capacity of your PV array. Then we have classification. It's very important to use the correct classification for your plant. So battery storage will show something completely different to residential. So residential is for grid ties only, so residential grid tie. So that's not very frequently used in South Africa. I'll just quickly show you. So on a plant like this energy flow diagram, you only get if you select battery storage. So for any hybrids with batteries, if you do not select battery storage, you won't get this flow diagram. It's the same with the SEMS on the mobile app. So we just need to make sure we select the correct one here. Then you'll see here's the distributor code. So if you are creating it from your installer account, this will automatically populate with your installer code. So your installer code, you can also find. So if you come to settings, my account, yeah, you can find your installer code or distributor code. So if you do have a user that registered an inverter already on his own, there's no need for him to actually delete that plant. All he simply needs to do is add this code to his plant, and then you'll have full access to that plant. So this normally stays blank or stays with the GoodWe default, which is the GW. Then it can still be edited once the plant has been created. There your customer can just paste in your code, hit save or register, and it will automatically appear on your side. The next year we have amount of solar panels. This is an irrelevant field. It doesn't really, it's just for information's sake. So it doesn't really do anything to the SEMS portal. Then plant battery capacity. Plant battery capacity also doesn't have any bearing on the plant. It does not affect the way the plant works. It is just a field for this display to kind of gauge what it should be. And it's also good for fault finding to come in and see if your batteries are running flat very quickly and you only have a 1 kilowatt hour battery, then it is self-explanatory. So the only things that play a role, so this capacity plays a role in the display. At the moment, it's not working 100%. So you'll see here the equivalent hours for the day. So the equivalent hours is based on the capacity versus the generation for today. So if you put your capacity incorrectly, this equivalent hours will be very incorrect. So as you can see, this plant, it's saying the equivalent hours of production is roughly 0.97. So it's almost 1 hour of production in relation to the capacity of the PV array. And then we have the map section. So the map section is for that lovely dashboard of ours. So this is where we can go and select where the plant is. As you'll see, it should find your location. If you allowed the SEMS to find your location, you should see it should find where your location is. You can simply just drag and drop this pin. It doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes a small town, it might not have an exact reference point. So when you drop the pin, it might jump somewhere similar. Then we can just say, okay. You can also just type in the address here as well. Obviously, I'm moving it around a bit too quickly, so it takes a while for this to register. So that's why we just have to, once you move the pin, it's taking a bit of time to actually register where we've moved it. So see, it gives us this pop-up, the local time where your plant is located. So it gives you that local time. So it's just automatically for the device to recognize where the device is. So if that's correct, you can just say ignore. and then you'll see it's input the address, but I clicked too quickly forward to find where the pin had been moved to. You can also put in the detailed address. So as I say, that location pin is just for your main dashboard, for a general area of where the device is, as well as for the weather report that you see here. So this is just a system generated weather report based on a widget. So it takes information off the internet and puts it here, but that is based on the pin location which you put in. So if you pin this very far away, the customer might see some strange data, but it unfortunately is just a weather report, so it's not always accurate, but it gives a good indication. So if you open a plant, although you don't live in the area where you've installed these devices, if the customer says, no, he's having lower production today, and you open the plant, you can see, is it sunny, is it cloudy, more or less what the weather is reporting on that day, and then you can have an expectation of more or less what the production should be. And then the detailed address is just for a differentiation. So you don't really need the detailed address entered here. You can just leave that blank if customers don't want their address, their specific address on the portal. So after that, we can just hit register. You'll see it then prompts you to add devices. You can add a device now, so you can automatically click add. It will take you into the devices section, and then we can add the device. But before we go there, so as you see now, we're still in plants. Here's the plant that we just created. It will always be on top. And now you'll see there's no owner, no visitor, but you'll still have full access to this plant. As an installer, you don't need to be an owner or a visitor to view this plant, not at all. You can view all the plant information. You can change this information. You can edit here as you are the installer of the plant. So you have a higher access to that plant than even the owner of the plant. So I said, when you're done or in between, you can always here add the owner. So you'll click here, add, and then you'll say, put in the owner's email address. I'm not really going to put it, I'm just typing in something randomly. And then you can hit the submit button. So from an installer's account, this is all you have to do. You don't have to go and create a SEMS account for the customer. The customer doesn't have to go and register himself on the SEMS portal prior. You can simply type in his email address, hit submit, and it will automatically create a SEMS account for the customer. So you'll see it will pop up with a prompt saying an account has been created for this email address and the default password. It will give you that default password. Please pay attention when that pop-up dialog does come. You can always just select and copy and paste it and send it through to the user, because the user will not get an email saying his account has been registered or anything like that. You need to provide him the default password so that he can log in to his account. He can then log in, change his password from the default password, and then continue. Then we have the visitor section. So visitors are only required if there are external people which you'd like to have look at this. So if you are a company and you have installers that do installations for you, very often they would add some of the installers for visitors, so they also have overview. But from a installer account, you do not really need this. You can actually have all of your guys in one single account. So as you'll see from an installer account, you have this different section here called organization. So only installer accounts can view the organization. So yeah, you'll also see your installer number. Yeah, we can go to account list. So the account list shows you everyone that's in your organization. So yeah, you can add. So if you have a bunch of installers in your company, so as the owner of the company, you genuinely want to register that account under yourself. So then you'll be the primary account holder, because the primary account holder cannot be removed at all. They will be permanent. So don't do it to one of your technicians. Normally have the main owner of the company have the full rights to the account, and then you can add. So you can add as many people here as you'd like. You'll see here's the default password, GoodWe 2018. Especially for installers and installer accounts, I recommend don't leave your default password. Otherwise, you'll provide your customer a login with the default password. And if he's got your email address, he can try and log into there. So that's not very secure. So please make sure that you do change this password to one of your passwords so that it is more secure. So yeah, you can simply add all your technicians. You just have to make sure that they do not already have a SEMS Portal account on the email address you are adding them here. If they already have an end user account on the SEMS Portal, you'll have to use a different email address, or they'll have to delete that account. So the account can't be registered already. So this will create a SEMS account for this main account. As you'll see, there are different roles: administrator, browser, technician. So browsers, if you have a customer who wants to see what SEMS is all about, but you don't want them to be able to do anything, you can simply add them to here as well as temporary for them to view your portal so that they can go in, look at the plants, all that kind of thing. Or if you just have
David, I believe your mic's gone. I can no longer hear you.
apologies, I cut out there. I don't know where you lost me. But yes, administrators can add users here as well, so they can also add more people to the account, and they can physically edit everything. They can even delete or remove other members here, but they cannot delete or remove the main member. So the main member is, as you see here, unable to be disabled. So only us from GoodWe side can do this. Yeah, you see there's roles and permissions. So this is just a description of the different authorities that the different roles have. And then we have PV plant ownership, where you can see the different plants and who is the owner of those plants. But this is not really used at all. Okay, so now we have all of that out of the way, and we've created our plant, we've added the owner, created an account for him. Now we can add devices. So there's two ways. We can go to device page. We can then select the device management as well. So this will take us straight into the device management for that plant. So now we're in the device management side. Now you'll see we've got the plant name, and the pinned address, which we put in there. We can view the inverters, replacement history, and data loggers and other things like that as well. Because there's no data logger here, we don't see the data logger tab. Yeah, you can simply click add. Now you'll give a identifying name for your inverter. This is just so that if you have multiple inverters on the site, you don't have to look which one is which every time by the serial number. You can give them identifying names. So based on how you install them, you can put them 1, 2, 3, 4 and number them on site as well, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then when you have an issue or the customer has a problem, you can just say, you know, inverter 1 has a flashing error light. Then you can go to the SEMS Portal to see which is inverter 1. So this is just a good place to give that. So inverter number 1, or you can simply name it number 1. Then you input the serial number of that inverter and then the check code. So the check code is a number that is only on the side of your inverter. That is a security code to make sure that no one can register the serial number of the device. So you won't find it on the box, you won't find it in the manual, you'll only find it on the side of your inverter. So once you've entered that, you can then hit submit. So if you have a data logger or something like that, which you are adding here, so if you have a commercial plant with an SEC 1000, you can add the SEC. Same, it will also have a serial number and a check code, which you add. After adding this device, you hit submit. It will then register that device. And if you can see it here nice and online, I can just go into a random one for us, just so you guys can see how it looks. So I'll just choose a random site. As you'll see, we have the data logger showing here and the inverters. So this is an offline plant. So once you've added the data logger, you don't need to add all your inverters individually. Yeah, you simply need to say detect other devices. So when your commercial inverters are all connected to your SEC directly and they're communicating to the portal through the SEC, you can say detect other devices and it will automatically pull up a list of the inverters that are successfully connected to the SEC. The list of inverters will appear here and you can simply say add, and then it will add all those inverters for you automatically to the plant. So there's no need to add them one by one with the serial number and check code. It will automatically populate that. Once populated and added, then you can also come and modify this and just add names. So just easy identifiers for future. So then you can just list the serial numbers, have a list of your serial numbers and which number you've numbered them. And then you can just modify this and add the inverter numbers. So while we're here, I'll also be talking about some of the other features here. So yeah, in the operation, there's modify, replace, and delete. Let me just go to another plant quickly. So as you see here, we've got the device serial number and all of that. And then we have modify. So you can hit modify just to change the name. That's all you can modify here. Then you have replace and delete. So should you have a device that is replaced under warranty or anything like that, that's the only time the replace function is used. So what the replace function does is it automatically inherits the warranty of your previous device to the new device. The replace function should only be used in the case of a warranty replacement of a device. So if you see a device, you'll see the replace inverter can't be added again. So if you are moving an inverter from one customer to a different customer, so if they're upgrading the system, they have an ES now, but they want the new EHB installed, please do not use the replace function, because the replace function will lock the other unit in the back end and save all its data to this existing plant. So you can't use the replace function in that because you won't be able to add that inverter to another plant again. As you'll see, it also recommends you must replace the inverter with the same type because this is for warranty replacements. And if a device has been replaced, you can also come to replacement history to view the previously replaced device on the plant. And then lastly, there's delete. So if you are moving the device to a different customer, you can simply come and delete this device, add the new one, and continue on as normal. So now we're going to move on to the data selection. So on our SEMS Portal, we can generate a lot of reports. You can export a lot of data. So yeah, we're in data selection. So this is to select individual data points and export just raw data from the portal. You can export this in Excel, or you can have an automatic curve generated. When you create a curve, you can only select 2 indicators, so it's no more than 2 units. So when we say 2 units, it can be voltage and current. So if you have a 3-phase device, you can select R1, R2, R3, the incoming grid voltage, the backup voltage, that all counts as 1 unit. And then you select current, and you can select all the different currents because that is a different unit. So because it's generating a X and a Y axis, you have to select 2 different units, but you can select multiple data points in those units. So as you'll see, I typed in the inverter serial number here. It then searched and pulled this up. We then click on the plus. So you can do multiple plants, multiple inverters at the same time. That then shows us this information here. Loading is just a bit slow. While we talk about that, you'll see the time selection. So the time selection, you can only select a maximum of 1 week. So if you want today's data, you'd select today. In the past, you'd have to select today and tomorrow, but now you can just select today's data. As you'll see, it shows you the time. So if the time is there from 12 to 7:84, it's the most up-to-date data. But you can do 1 week's data. So you'll select the 24th to the 31st. Then we hit OK. As you'll see now, it's from the 24th to the 31st. So we can only download 1 week's data at a time. So as you see here, then we can select all the different data points. You can hit select all and select everything. Or you can clear selection. So this will then just download an Excel spreadsheet. So what I'll do is use curve for this one. So we can see the volts of the PV and the current. But because we select voltage and current, we should be able to select that voltage, this voltage. So this is currently an error on the portal. It's saying UA that's grid voltage. We can see the volt of the backup, the current of the backup, the volt of the battery, and the current of the battery. Then we hit generate data. I'm just hitting export now. So normally if we do the curve will appear for us here. So we can just quickly look at that. It might be that I selected a little bit too ambitious with all of my different data points which I selected. There might be some conflicting ones that is causing an error. But as you see, it is exporting for us. So we'll just wait for that to load. Just open this up. Oh yes, that's why I didn't load. I did select way too many data points for us to be able to see the curve. Yes, for three-phase, you can select multiple. So your PV, all the different PV voltages, all the different PV currents, that will count as 2 data points. We cannot select as many multiple. So if it's AC, we can do all the AC voltages. So the AC voltage, the backup voltage, and then the currents. I think it's just confused because I selected both DC and AC voltages, and that's created a bit of an issue. But while that loads, then next you'll see we've got templates. So you can save this as a template. So if there is a default data that you like drawing from different plants, you can save the template. So yeah, now finally it has created our curve for us. So just by removing one point, the battery, we can see. So yeah, we've got the PV voltages. So we have voltage in the one axis and current in the other axis. That's why we can only have 2 points, because the bottom axis is our time. You can also scroll in to have a more detailed information. But because I selected so many points, there is a lot of data for us to view in a whole week worth of graphs. So you can also come and select these, it will remove them. But as you'll see, so the normal export data, so if you just export the data, you'll see it will export everything into an Excel spreadsheet for you like this. So where all the information is per minute, as you'll see here, per minute. We're on the SEMS portal and the graphs are all in every 5 minutes. Yeah, you'll see is per minute data. The only time you'll see 5-minute data is if you have Wi-Fi issues on your site. So all of our inverters does store breakpoint data, so for up to 1 week. And that breakpoint data is then sent to the SEMS portal when the device connects back to the internet. But it's only 5-minute data intervals. So when you see you only have 5-minute data intervals data available, that would be historic data that the inverter sent. So it wasn't live data that the inverter sent to the SEMS portal. And then we have our generation reports. So there is daily and monthly generation reports. At the moment, there is 1 or 2 little bugs with these reports. Our engineers are working hard to resolve it. But I'll show you one of the quick ways to get a monthly report. So if you open your plant for your customer, we can click generation and income. You'll see it's day, month, year, but it always essentially shows us the last month year. So if we select month and we want last month's data, we can go to last month and just click this nice little button here. What this will do is then take us to the reports. So because I selected month and not day, it's jumped to annual report. And if we have day selected, it should generate our monthly report. Yes, you'll see the monthly report. So when you select month, it gives us the annual report. If you select day, it gives the monthly report. So this is a quick way to create these reports. So it's as easy as opening your SEMS portal, selecting your customer's plant, and generating the report. So I'll just show that again because I went quite quickly. So you'll select generation and income. Once you select generation and income, you can just click the page export button here, and then that will take us straight into the report. This report you can just view here, or you can export it to Excel as well. And yeah, you can go and select your different months. So this is just a simple and quick way to view your monthly and annual reports for the plants. As you see currently, we're unable to search with the plant name. We have to use the serial number. But the daily and monthly reports are quite similar. If we do specifically need a daily report, you can come select the device's serial number, input this into the daily here. I'll just have to select serial number, sorry. Give it a few seconds to load and the device should appear for us. But as I mentioned earlier, this is undergoing a bit of challenges at the moment, which should be fixed soon. And we also have some other reporting that one can do. So user-defined reports. I myself have not worked with this a lot. And then we also have a simulation report. So with a user-defined report, it's very similar to data selection, where you're going to select the different data points. I don't think we need to go through this. So this will be exactly the same as your data selection. So you'll select the your plant, and then you'll have the drop-down list of the different data points which you'd like to display. and then you can generate a report based on that. Instead of having a monthly report that gives you these different informations, it gives you a selection of different information that you can add to that report. And simulation report, that just creates a simulation based on the plant size. So if you put your kilowatt hour value in a commercial plant, you can come here and generate a simulation report. So based on the kilowatts peak that's installed on your inverter, it will give you the simulated production. So that's just a general indication of what the production is more or less supposed to be based on the inverter and PV capacity. So that doesn't take in any environmental factors or azimuths or anything like that. It's just the theoretical generation. And then lastly, we have some statistics which you can generate. So as we're running out of time, I think I need to speed up a little bit. Yes, we went through creating plants, reports, and then now we have alarms and then detailed information on the plants. So next we have our alarms tab. So in the alarms tab, we can come and see what alarms has happened on our inverters. So as you'll see, there's all those alarms that you could see last time, and you'll see 99% of the alarms we have here are utility loss, voltage loss, utility loss. If you have a error occurring, so these are all live errors, so errors currently occurring. Yeah, you can click on the details. This will tell you exactly what the details are. So you have just a graph of your inverter. Yeah, we see it says the grid power has failed, or there's an AC connection issue, or breaker failure, or the grid is not connected to the device. And then just some troubleshooting steps for that fault. Some faults may not have troubleshooting, so just refer you to go to our support for help. You can also click here, history curve. Which will automatically take you to export the data of your device. So this takes you automatically into that device which is having the error. You can select the different data points, export that, and then assess the data to see exactly what's going on with your plant. That's a nice quick way to get to the data of the plant. Oopsie daisy. Oh. Just waiting for this to load for us. So with the alarms page, you can also search for device or the history of a device to see what alarms has reported. Unfortunately, SEMS Portal doesn't always report all the alarms that occur, so all the faults that occur on the device. Sometimes a fault will occur and the device will switch off due to that fault. Then the fault is not reported to SEMS Portal, so it's not reported as a live fault. So only live faults will report here on the SEMS Portal. So faults that occurred that cause the device to shut down or anything like that. Currently won't show on the SEMS portal. They are working on that to have any shutdown errors and things like that to show for us here on the alarms page as well. But currently the shutdown errors and things like that do not display here for us. This is while that's loading, you'll see the status here. So status is happening, recovered or all. So if you have had a device that had an issue previously, you can simply select recovered. You'll see the dates, so you can put in the dates, and you can also select your device. So if it's a specific customer that said they were having issues, they could see there was a fault on their system. You can simply come here, type in your serial number, put a space bar because that normally helps it find it quicker. It'll pick up the plant name. So status here is recovered. So yeah, we can select a data. So from a date to a specific date, there's no real limitation at the range here that you can select. This plant unfortunately hasn't had any errors. So this is if you're only looking at a specific range to see in the specific date and times when your error occurred. Alternatively, you can just say status all, and that will show all the last errors that has occurred in the last month. Then we can jump over to this. So as you see, we've got our message center here. So in our settings, we have notification preferences. So you have emails or message center. So message center will be this. This is the message center. You can enable this. So you can make it a pop-up or just in the message center. So if you wanted the pop-up to notify you that a plant has an alarm or something's going on the plant, you can do this. So you can select web or the mobile app. So then you just need to make sure that the app notifications are allowed on the SEMS Portal app, because then that app can notify you as soon as an alarm occurs, or web and app, and you can select both. Then you can select the type of notifications you'd like to get. So you can select the alarm messages, so you can enable alarm messages and you'll get the alarm messages on the web app or web. You can also select email as well, and then it will notify you on all the different platforms. Then you can also do generation report. So you can select the type of generation report you'll receive. So you can select specific plants. So if there's only specific customers that want generation reports, you can simply select that and you'll automatically be emailed this report. So you can select the daily, the weekly or monthly reports, or you can select all plants that are under your portal. As you'll see as a notice, generation push reports doesn't function for single retrofit inverters. So for South Africa, that doesn't really matter because we don't really have any of the retrofits, the SPP, the BH, the BS, all those different devices that start with the B. So that is all for the alarms. Then lastly, we have the detailed information on SEMS Portal so that we can see all the detailed information. So in SEMS Portal, you'll always find we've got the energy flow for our storage inverters and then the device section. So the device section is where we come to view all the detailed information on a plant. So this is just a quick view. So we can export everything to Excel, as I showed you previously in the export tab. And then we have to go through a long Excel spreadsheet to assess the data. Sometimes when we don't see anything here or any problems here, we do export that data, because then we can see 1 minute interval data, and that will give us a better indication of exactly what has occurred. So as you'll see, this is live snapshot data. So the current live snapshot of what was going on in your inverter in the last 5 minutes. So it's always important to know that this refreshes every 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, on the 5 minutes, it refreshes. So currently it is 10:06. So this refreshed 1 minute ago. This data will not change. Even if we refresh the plant, it will not change until the next 5 minutes has passed. So that is the live 5 minute snapshot data. So this will not change. So if we are making changes to the portal or changes to the system, and we want to view those changes on SEMS Portal, we won't see those changes. We'll have to wait 5 more minutes, and then we should see the changes appear. So here's the most important part, the curve. So if you have multiple inverters, you'll have a arrow or dots here that you can select the different inverters, and each one's curve you can go in individually. So as we are having a bit of issues at the moment, you'll see the power is not displaying here. This is just a slight back-end bug that we are working on, but we should see all the different data points. Yeah. Here we can see the voltage of PV2, so we can see the PV voltage. So since the sun came up, you can see our first light started here at 550, then we started getting voltage at 555, and so on. Our voltage climbed up, then our voltage dipped down again. So most likely the inverter started drawing more current. We had a large voltage dip, and then the production went on. So you can always measure this. This is 640, and then come here to 640. And that's exactly when we started producing, and that's when we had the voltage dip. And so it goes on. Here's a lot of different information. We can see all the different voltages, currents. So currently this would normally be VAC. So VAC is the voltage for the grid connection to the inverter. IAC, so IAC is the inverter's output to that grid circuit. So it's essentially the grid tie output. So it's the grid connected load output. So as you can see in this inverter, we are outputting. So you'll see there's just a base load. So this is mostly usage from the grid. So this could be usage or to the grid, but this will also be based on this. So if we are using from the grid, we should see, as you can see, yeah, using from the grid. So this is grid connected loads. So these are just what was on the backup and so forth. This, yeah, you'll see the AC output to the loads from the inverter to the AC connection point. So these are non-essential loads that are being run by the inverter. So yeah, we can see what's being fed to the non-essentials. So if this is a good place to come and look, if we are seeing export on the SEMS portal, and we come here and we see there is no IAC output, but yet we're seeing export, that is a good indication that our smart meter is on incorrectly. And then of course the frequency of the grid, the volt PV, and then yeah, you'll see work mode. So work mode is very often confused. The work mode, yeah, isn't the work mode in the app selection that you select. So it's not the operating mode that you selected in the app. Work mode is the current operating mode. So 1, it's operating normally. 5 will mean wait, and so forth. So it's it's a scale from 1 to 5, and they all have different meanings. So if there's an error or something like that, you might see a 5. If the device is idle, you'll see a different work mode. But if it's working perfectly and there's no errors or no faults occurring, we'll see a nice solid 1 all the way through. But if the grid, even if there's a grid errors or the grid frequency or the grid voltage goes out of range for NRS and we are disconnecting from the grid, you'll also see this work mode will change, like work mode 2, so it's essentially running off grid. So there's a lot of different scenarios that can happen here. So it's not necessarily the work mode that you select on the app. It won't change from general to backup mode on its own. It's all based on the current operating logic of the device. Then we can see temperature. So temperature is the actual internal temperature of the inverter. So it is not the external temperature, it's the internal temperature of the inverter. So H total is the total running hours of the device. Our PV generation P meter. So P meter is also an important place where we often come and look. So this is our power meter and what our power meter is reading. So especially on 3-phase, we've got the different P meters. So P meter 1, P meter 2, P meter 3. That's phase 1, 2, and 3. So P meter will be the combined 3. And then we have P meter 1, 2, and 3, which is the individual phases. So it's very important to use those to come through and have a look to see what the individual phases are doing. Then we have P backup. P backup is also the combined backup output. So for single phase devices, that's all you have. And then for 3-phase devices, it will be the combined of the 3 phases. Yeah, we can come and see what our customers' loads are, see how the backup loads are running. Are they exceeding the limit of the inverter? Is the customer overloading the inverter? If we scroll back, we might even see an overload or two, but that does happen from time to time. As long as the overload is quite short, the inverter won't trip off itself, but you can generally tell by the scale whether it has overloaded. So yeah, we can see this customer is running all his load mostly nicely inside of the operating range of the inverter. But if we see this is peaking out of that operating range, then we know there might be some things connected to the backup output that shouldn't be connected. We have voltback, IBAT, SSC, SOH, BMS temperature, and then BMS charge max and discharge max. So these are 2 very important places that are often used. So this is based on the batteries. So I went to the next day so we can have a better overview of this. So this is a reporting from the battery BMS itself. So this changes based on what the battery requires. So as you can see here, the charge Imax, this was SSC in the morning. You can see the charge Imax is at 103 amps. So that is based on the batteries. So with different lithium batteries, based on the temperatures of the batteries themselves, they might lower your charging current. So as you'll see here in the early hours of the morning, our charge current dropped to 59 amps, although the maximum charge current on this battery bank should be 148. So what this indicates to us is that the batteries most likely quite cold, so less than 10 degrees or 15 degrees Celsius. So based on your battery manufacturer, this might have a different value. And as you'll see, as the battery gets full, you'll see this drops even further until it gives you 0 charge current. So if you are seeing batteries that aren't getting 100% full, like in this case, this battery was basically stopped charging because the loads were higher than the battery. But if you see those flash lines, like here in this graph, at 80% or 88%, and never ever gets full, it can be that your batteries just do not want to take more charge. So this is a good place to come and see if your batteries are limiting the charge current severely like this, and they're not getting full, then you might need to troubleshoot your batteries to see exactly what's happening with your batteries. Very often it can be an imbalance in the cells, and you might just need to discharge your batteries and charge them up very slowly until they're 100% full. And the same goes for discharge Imax. So temperature doesn't really affect the discharge current as much. You'll see this stays nice and stable. And generally only drops down when the batteries are below the BMS recommended cutoff. So if these are Pylantic batteries and they go down 10%, then it will drop down the discharge current to 0. This is reporting from the BMS and it's not from the inverter itself. And that's really all. Most times, the most important things to look at is the P meter, the P backup, and the charge and discharge. So those are the sections where we look most to see what exactly is happening to a system, why batteries are reacting in a certain way. Because this is from the BMS. The P backup, and with the 3-phase devices, we have the P backup 1, P backup 2, P backup 3. There we can go and see what loads are running on those. For the 3-phase, we know what the limit is, 3.3 kilowatts per phase on the 10 kilowatt. If you can see the customer is exceeding that, then we know there's something that needs to be addressed. And then the P meter section is used to confirm that our meter is installed correctly, especially on the 3-phase, where then you can view the individual meter data, and that gives us a good indication of whether the meter is installed correctly or the CTs are correct. Because sometimes with the 3-phase, it might look correct on this main graph, but because all of the load is on one phase and the other 2 phases have very little load, so that doesn't make it look incorrect. And that is all then for our presentation. I will go through to the Q&A and answer all the questions that have been asked so far. So Alexis has asked, can we use this video view to showcase a potential customer the amount of successful installations? Yes, for sure. The main dashboard, that is the main reason for the main dashboard, is a marketing tool for you guys to market yourselves, to show, look at all our installations. You can see how much we've produced, how much energies we saved, how much CO2 we've saved. That's the main idea behind the main dashboard, is to act as a marketing tool for you guys. Alexis also said we can showcase one of their plants. I will just do that for them as well. So this is just to show you guys what you can see on a commercial plant with the SEC 1000 connected. Hopefully the plant is on site, online, and the guys aren't working on site at the moment. And then they also asked on the main dashboard, the numbers in the bubbles. Yes, so the numbers in the bubbles is the amount of plants. So as you scroll in, the bubbles will expand until you have a single marking point. As you'll see. So based on where the different points are put by customers. So do we have any other questions? My computer seems to be a bit slow today. Well, I think we can just end it there. That's not correct at all.
Cool. All right. Thanks very much, David, for that. I'm sure you guys found that quite valuable. As mentioned, I think there's a lot of information that is viewed or, displayable on the SEMS portal, which a lot of customers don't know about. So yeah, thank you very much. And then also just to mention, guys, we have done it a few times for customers. If you have a potential, project that's looking quite good and you want some more convincing for the end user, we've done a few sort of SEMS portal presentations where, we go into detail on plants and show them what their plant would look like. So please feel free to do that as well. It's been quite successful thus far. We've had some really, large, rollouts with some of our distribution partners be successful because of those type of extra efforts. But yeah, thanks very much. Again, everything will be available and sent through to you in terms of the recordings and presentations. Please be patient. We will get it through to you. And then again, just a reminder, if there are any, specific topics you guys would like us to touch on, please feel free to reach out to either myself or David in order to get that loaded. But thanks very much. Please have a look at either our LinkedIn channels or social media channels like LinkedIn and Facebook for our next webinar series, which we will have in planning shortly. And then, also you can refer to our distributors, distribution partners, social media channels as well, as they have shared the presentations or the webinars rather. Thanks very much, guys. I hope you have a good week. Stay safe, and we hope to be able to see you guys in person soon. Thank you.